Women over 60 should avoid these pixie hairstyle cut mistakes. There is something quietly powerful about a woman who walks into a salon knowing exactly what she wants. And if you are over 60 and you have been thinking about a pixie cut, that feeling makes complete sense. A pixie can look absolutely stunning on a mature woman. It can lift the face, highlight your features with a kind of elegant simplicity, and carry a confidence that many other styles simply cannot match. But here's what most stylists do not always take the time to explain. A pixie cut on a woman over 60 is a very different conversation from the same cut on someone much younger. Your hair has changed. Your face has evolved. And if the cut does not honor those changes, you can walk out of that salon with something that feels slightly wrong, even if you cannot quite put your finger on what it is. That is exactly why this video exists. Too many women over 60 have sat in that salon chair, described the pixie of their dreams, and walked away feeling like the result somehow aged them rather than lifted them. It was not because they chose the wrong style. It was because specific, very avoidable mistakes crept into the cutting process that nobody warned them about ahead of time. Today we are walking through those mistakes clearly and gently, one by one. Stay with us all the way to the end, because the final mistake we share is the one most women never even recognize as a mistake at all, and it may be the most important thing you hear today. When cutting too short quietly strips away the softness you need. One of the most common mistakes when a woman over 60 asks for a pixie is that the cut ends up far too short. The intention behind it is usually well-meaning. There is a widespread belief that shorter means sharper, cleaner, and somehow more modern. But for mature hair, that extreme closeness to the scalp can work against you in ways that are very difficult to undo once the scissors have done their work. The first thing you lose when a pixie goes too short is volume. After 60, many women are naturally navigating some degree of hair thinning. This is completely normal, shaped by hormonal shifts, natural changes in the hair follicle, and years of heat styling and coloring. When the hair is cut very tight and very close to the head, those finer strands have almost nothing left to work with. Instead of creating the full, lifted silhouette that a beautifully done pixie should give you, an overly short cut can leave the hair looking flat, sparse, and almost transparent under direct lighting. Rather than drawing attention away from the thinning, it puts it front and center. The second thing you lose is softness around the face, and for a woman over 60, this matters more than almost anything else. As we age, the face naturally develops more definition. The cheekbones become more prominent. The jaw reshapes itself over time. The temples grow more angular. A pixie that keeps a little length at the crown and along the sides creates a gentle, natural frame around all of those features. It softens them, balances them, and flatters the beautiful changes that come with the passing of time. But when the cut goes too close, that frame disappears completely. What remains is a very stark, very exposed look that puts every angle and shadow on the face into sharp focus. For many women, this reads as harsh rather than refined. That is the opposite of what they were hoping to feel when they finally made the decision to try this style. The version of a pixie that works most beautifully for women over 60 is what stylists often call a soft pixie or a textured pixie. It keeps all of the boldness and energy of a short cut while leaving just a little extra length at the crown for gentle movement and volume. It keeps some softness around the sides to create a frame rather than an exposure. And it intentionally avoids that extreme closeness at the back and sides that can strip even a skillfully executed cut of all its warmth and femininity. Yes, some women over 60 wear a very close-cropped pixie with remarkable elegance. But those women typically have a very specific bone structure and work closely with a stylist who understands mature hair at a deep level. For most women, keeping a little more length is not a compromise. It is actually the quiet secret that makes this cut look its most beautiful. So the very next time you are sitting in that salon chair and the clippers come out, do not be afraid to ask your stylist to hold back just a little. Even a few extra centimeters of length in the right places can be the entire difference between a cut that feels flat and hard and one that feels genuinely lifted, soft, and full of quiet confidence. And speaking of softness, what we are about to cover next connects directly to this, because it is all about what happens when something called texture gets completely removed from the pixie, and the results can be surprisingly unflattering in ways that are very easy to avoid. When flat, textureless cutting turns a pixie into something that ages you. There is a mistake that sits quietly at the heart of many disappointing pixie cuts, and it does not get talked about nearly enough. It is the complete removal of texture. And for women over 60, this single decision, often made quickly and without much thought, can be the reason a pixie ends up looking stiff, dated, and far older than the woman wearing it. Texture in a haircut refers to the deliberate variation that a skilled stylist creates within the layers of the hair. It is the reason some pixie cuts look alive, soft, and full of natural movement, while others look flat, helmet-like, and rigid. When a pixie is cut without any attention to texture, the strands all fall to the same length and lie in the same direction. There is no dimension. There is no flow. The cut becomes a shape rather than a style, and on mature hair, that shape very rarely works in a flattering direction. After 60, the natural texture of the hair often shifts. Strands can become finer, sometimes wavier, sometimes drier than they once were. A cut that ignores this natural shift and simply removes all variation will fight against what the hair actually wants to do. The result is a style that requires enormous effort to maintain, looks its best only for a day or two after the salon visit, and then very quickly starts to look flat and shapeless. That cycle of frustration is entirely avoidable if texture is introduced thoughtfully from the very beginning. What texture actually does for a mature pixie is something almost magical. When layers are cut with slight variation in length, some pieces move over others, creating shadow and depth across the hair. This depth gives the illusion of fullness, which is exactly what thinning hair needs. The movement created by textured layers also draws the eye across the whole style rather than letting it land on any single area of sparseness or flatness. It keeps the cut feeling energetic and alive from every angle, which is everything a great pixie should feel. There is also the question of what texture does for the face. When a pixie has soft, wisping pieces at the temples and crown rather than blunt, uniform edges, those pieces interact with the face in a much more flattering way. They soften the areas where the face and the hairline meet. They create a gentle transition between the hair and the skin rather than a hard, sudden line. For a woman over 60, that transition matters enormously because hard lines and sharp edges around the face tend to add years rather than take them away. The good news is that this mistake is one of the easiest to communicate and to avoid. Before your next cut, simply tell your stylist that you want texture and movement in the finished style. Ask them to point cut or razor cut the ends rather than cutting bluntly across. Ask for soft, layered variation rather than a uniform length. Those words will do more for your final result than almost any other request you could make. And now that we have talked about texture, it is time to talk about something that is just as important, because no matter how beautifully textured a pixie is, if the overall shape does not work with your face structure, something will still feel slightly off every time you look in the mirror. When the pixie shape you choose works against your natural face structure. One of the most overlooked aspects of getting a pixie cut after 60 is understanding that not all pixie shapes are created equal, and the shape that looks extraordinary on one woman can look completely wrong on another. The difference almost always comes down to face shape, and yet this is the conversation that gets skipped more often than almost any other in the salon. Face shape matters in hairstyling because every cut creates a visual frame around the face. That frame either balances what is naturally there or it exaggerates it. With a pixie cut, because the hair is short and close, that framing effect becomes especially powerful. There is less hair to play with, which means every decision about shape and proportion carries more weight than it would in a longer style. If you have a round face, for example, a pixie cut that is cut flat on top and wide at the sides will make the roundness of the face appear even more pronounced. What a round face needs from a pixie is height at the crown to create a vertical line and closeness at the sides to reduce horizontal width. This version of the pixie slims the face, elongates it visually, and gives it a beautiful lifted quality. But if the stylist does not account for this and cuts purely by habit or by a reference photo without considering your specific face shape, the result can feel unexpectedly heavy and wide. If you have a long or oval face, on the other hand, the opposite is true. A pixie that piles all of its volume at the top and leaves nothing at the sides can make the face appear even longer and more narrow. What this face shape benefits from is width at the sides, soft framing around the cheeks and temples, and a little less height at the crown. A pixie with a softly rounded silhouette rather than a tall, narrow one will naturally complement the longer proportions of the face and create a more balanced, harmonious result. For women with a square face, meaning a strong jawline and defined angles, a pixie that mirrors those angles, cutting clean, straight lines along the sides and back, can amplify the squareness in an unflattering way. What softens a square face is gentle curves. Soft, layered pieces that curl slightly inward at the cheek area, a little natural movement around the ears and temples, and a crown that rounds rather than sits flat. All of these choices help transform angular strength into elegant softness. The most important thing to take away from all of this is not to memorize every rule about face shapes. It is simply to have the conversation with your stylist before the cut begins. Bring a mirror. Look at your face together. Ask your stylist specifically how they plan to shape the pixie to work with your natural structure. A skilled, thoughtful stylist will already have this conversation with you. But if they move straight to the scissors without addressing it, you have every right to pause and ask. In the next section, we're going to talk about something that is deeply connected to face shape but is often confused with it, and that is the natural texture of your own hair and the enormous role it should play in deciding exactly which version of a pixie cut is truly right for you. When your hair's own natural texture gets completely ignored. Here is something that does not get said often enough when women talk about pixie cuts. The hair you have right now, today, the texture it naturally carries, the way it behaves when it dries on its own, the direction it naturally wants to move, all of that information is one of the most important guides your stylist should be listening to before a single cut is made. When that information gets ignored, no matter how skilled the stylist or how beautiful the reference photo, the final result rarely looks the way you hoped it would. Hair texture changes significantly as we age, and for women over 60, this is something worth paying close attention to. Hair that was once straight can develop a slight wave or even a curl. Hair that was once thick and dense can become fine and delicate. The natural oils that once gave the hair a smooth, glossy appearance can diminish, leaving strands drier, more porous, and more prone to frizz. These are not flaws to be fixed. They are characteristics to be worked with. And a great pixie cut, designed specifically for your hair's natural texture, will always look better and feel easier to manage than a cut that fights against what your hair actually wants to do. If your hair is fine, straight texture, a pixie that relies on volume and lift at the crown needs very strategic cutting. Fine, straight hair has a natural tendency to lie flat, so the cut itself needs to build in that volume through careful layering and precise graduation. If the cut is too blunt, the hair will simply lay down against the head, and all of the intended fullness will disappear within hours of leaving the salon. The solution is not more product. The solution is a cut that is designed from the beginning to create the illusion of volume through its structure. If your hair has developed a natural wave or curl, a pixie can look absolutely beautiful, but it needs to honor that wave rather than fight it. A cut that is designed for straight hair will look chaotic and uneven on naturally wavy or curly hair. The sections will dry at different lengths and in different directions, and what was meant to look polished will instead look unfinished. A pixie designed for your natural texture will work with the curl pattern, allowing the hair to fall in a way that looks intentional and beautiful rather than accidental. This is also why copying a pixie cut directly from a photo is something to approach with real caution. The photo shows a result that was achieved on that specific person's hair, with that person's specific texture, density, and growth pattern. Bringing the photo to your appointment is wonderful as a reference for style direction and overall feeling. But your stylist needs to take everything they see in that photo and translate it onto the unique characteristics of your actual hair. That translation is where the art lives, and a stylist who understands mature hair will know exactly how to do it. So, before your next appointment, take a quiet moment to observe your hair on its own. What does it do when you let it air dry without any product or styling? That natural behavior is your hair telling you what it needs from a cut, and it is information worth sharing with your stylist before anything else. When skipping the real conversation with your stylist changes everything. There is a final mistake that is perhaps the most quietly damaging of everything we have talked about today, and it is this. Many women over 60 sit down in the salon chair, hand over a photo of the pixie they love, and then wait silently while the cut happens around them. They do not ask questions. They do not share concerns. They do not tell the stylist about the things that have bothered them about their hair for years. And when the cut does not turn out the way they hoped, they leave without saying anything, convinced that perhaps the style just was not meant for them. That experience does not come from the pixie being the wrong choice. It comes from a missed conversation. And that conversation, the real one, the honest and detailed one, is the single most powerful tool available to you in any salon visit. The truth is that a skilled stylist cannot read your mind. They can look at a reference photo and they can assess your hair, but they cannot know the specific things you have struggled with unless you tell them. They do not know that the last time you had a short cut, the back felt too exposed, and it made you self-conscious. They do not know that you have fine hair at the temples and always feel like that area looks sparse. They do not know that you have a slight wave on one side that always behaves differently from the other. Unless you share these things, they are working without the full picture. A great pre-cut consultation should include a few key things. First, share your inspiration photo, but also share what specifically you love about it. Is it the softness around the face? The volume at the top? The way it falls at the ears? Being specific about what draws you to a particular image helps your stylist target the qualities you actually want rather than simply replicating the shape as literally as possible. Second, share your concerns. What do you want the cut to minimize or soften? What areas of your hair or face do you feel most self-conscious about? A good stylist will use that information actively in every decision they make during the cut. Third, ask questions. Ask your stylist what they see in your hair and how they plan to address it. Ask them what shape they think will suit you best and why. Their answers will tell you a great deal about whether they are the right person to give you this cut. You also have the absolute right to pause during the cut if something does not feel right. If the stylist is going shorter than you expected or removing more length than you are comfortable with, speak up gently in the moment. It is far easier to take off a little more hair than it is to put it back. The women who consistently leave the salon with pixie cuts they love are not women with perfect hair or perfect bone structure. They are women who have learned to have clear, open, honest conversations with their stylists. That skill, more than any photo or trend, is what makes the real difference. And that brings us to the very end of today's video, where we want to leave you with one final, gentle thought about all of this. If you have made it all the way to the end of this video, we want you to know something. The fact that you are here, learning, asking questions, and thinking carefully about how you present yourself to the world is itself a beautiful act of self-respect. And you deserve to feel wonderful about the way you look at every age, including now, especially now. A pixie cut can be one of the most liberating and joyful hair decisions a woman over 60 can make. But like any style, it works best when it is approached with a little knowledge and a lot of honest communication. Avoid going too short. Preserve the softness and texture that make mature hair come alive. Respect the natural structure of your face. Honor the hair you actually have, and speak openly with your stylist. Those 5 simple things can be the difference between a pixie that makes you question your choice and one that makes you wish you had done it years sooner. Every woman's hair is unique. Every face is unique. And the most beautiful version of a pixie cut for you is not the one in the photo. It is the one that is designed thoughtfully and specifically for you. You deserve that kind of care and that level of attention every single time you sit in that salon chair. Be patient with yourself. Be honest with your stylist. And do not be afraid to advocate for exactly what you want. You have spent a lifetime learning who you are, and your hair should reflect that. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path.